The air inside the Manhattan criminal court was tense enough to cut with a knife. The dark wood paneling, the echoing shuffle of papers, and the piercing glare of Judge Juan Merchant all set the tone for what promised to be one of the most unpredictable days in recent court history. Representative Jasmine Crockett walked into the courtroom not as a defendant, but as a key witness in a politically charged case that had the media swarming outside like hornets. Her signature bright blazer contrasted sharply against the muted suits and black robes in the room. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but every reporter knew, if something happened today, it would explode across headlines. Judge Merchant, known for his firm hand and no-nonsense demeanor, was already tapping his gavel before she reached the witness stand. Representative Crockett, he began, his voice carrying the weight of decades on the bench, you are here under subpoena. I expect concise answers, adherence to decorum, and respect for the authority of this court. Jasmine raised an eyebrow, just enough to show she wasn't intimidated, and replied, and I expect this court to follow the law, not the theater. A subtle gasp rolled through the gallery. Courtroom theatrics were usually the judge's domain, but Crockett's comment struck like a match in dry grass. Merchant leaned forward. This is my courtroom, Representative, he said, voice sharp. You will answer the questions as directed. She crossed her arms, calm but unyielding. And as a sworn officer of the law, I will answer truthfully, not according to anyone's script. The prosecution team, seated to the right, shifted uncomfortably. The defense team smirked, clearly enjoying the friction. What began as a routine witness examination was turning into something much larger. It started when the prosecutor, a polished attorney named Evelyn Barnes, began asking about communications between Crockett and a whistleblower. The questions were sharp and loaded, designed to corner her. But Jasmine wasn't the type to get cornered. Barnes, did you or did you not have prior knowledge of the leaked documents? Crockett, define prior. Because if you mean before the truth mattered, then no. If you mean before this circus of a trial, maybe we should talk about how you got them. The judge's gavel came down hard. Representative Crockett, that's not your role here. But that's when it happened, the shift. Jasmine leaned forward in her seat, looking straight at the jury, her voice low but clear. My role is to tell the truth, no matter whose comfortable little narrative it upsets. And if that truth exposes political games being played inside this courtroom, then maybe, Your Honor, it's not me who's out of line. It was as if the oxygen left the room. The defense attorney's pen stopped mid-scribble. Even the court clerk froze in place. Judge Merchant's face flushed red, and he ordered a 5-minute recess to restore order. But order wasn't coming back. The gallery buzzed like a live wire. Reporters were already texting their editors. Security guards exchanged uneasy glances. As Crockett stood during the break, one bailiff whispered, "Ma'am, you're about to flip this whole place upside down." She smirked. Good. Maybe it needs it. When recess ended, the atmosphere was different. The jurors avoided eye contact with the judge. The defense looked almost energized. The prosecution's smiles had vanished. Judge Merchant tried to reassert control, his tone clipped and authoritative. We will proceed in an orderly fashion. Representative Crockett, you will refrain from unsolicited statements. But Jasmine didn't wait for another question. She placed both hands on the rail of the witness stand and addressed the court. Before we go any further, I have a point of order, she said. The judge slammed the gavel. This is not Congress, Representative. Exactly, she interrupted, and that's why this courtroom should not be a stage for political intimidation. Gasps. Scribbling pens. The stenographer's fingers flew across the keys. She went on, I've seen courtrooms where the truth was buried under procedure. I've seen good people silenced because someone in power didn't like their tone. And I'm not here to play along with that game. This isn't about me. This is about whether the law works for everyone, or just for the people sitting in certain seats. The prosecutor stood to object, but Jasmine's voice rose just enough to overpower. If you really want my testimony, then you'll get it, all of it, including how certain officials here tried to pressure me before I ever stepped inside. Judge Merchant's expression shifted from anger to visible concern. This wasn't going according to the carefully constructed plan. One juror leaned forward, clearly hooked. Another shook her head in disbelief. The defense attorney seized the moment. Your Honor, I believe this witness has information that could materially impact the credibility of the prosecution's case. I move that she be allowed to speak freely. The judge hesitated. The gallery leaned in, sensing the rare possibility that a witness had just outmaneuvered the bench itself. Against his instincts, Merchant relented. Proceed, but stay relevant, he said, his voice tight. And proceed she did. For the next 40 minutes, Jasmine Crockett dismantled the prosecution's narrative piece by piece, revealing contradictions, exposing backroom dealings, and naming names, not recklessly, but with a precision that made every statement land like a hammer blow. By the time she finished, the jury looked shaken, the prosecution looked gutted, and Judge Merchant looked like a man who had just lost control of his own courtroom. The gavel came down one final time. This court will recess until tomorrow. But as Jasmine Crockett walked out, head high, blazer sharp, and the whispers of stunned onlookers following her, one thing was clear: she hadn't just testified. She'd flipped the entire courtroom.